Welcome back to the channel. Now if you've been watching us for a while, you know the big thing we do is try and track down TV cars, famous cars and so on. But I want to do something different today. A few people have suggested why don't you look for your own vehicles, and well, actually I've been working on it, and there was a motorcycle that I bought when I was 17 years old and I managed to track it down. Stick with us and I'll tell you the story. This story starts back in May 1986. I was a youthful 17-year-old and I'd just passed my test. I'd had a couple of 125 Hondas and then I was looking for something bigger and came across this Kawasaki Gpz305 in a local dealer's. It was 2 years old but only done 250 miles. It was like new, and as you can see there is a picture here of a youthful me astride this beautiful Kawasaki, and amazingly the jacket still fits. It's a bit musty after 40 years, but let's skip over that. But here I am, still smiling on the bike, really chuffed. I very quickly put about 15,000 miles on that bike over the next 18 months. I also did what all sort of teenagers do. I failed on the maintenance and I slung it down the road. And after 18 months, it cried enough and the camshaft basically seized in the head. Which was a common failure for these bikes. Luckily I had a cousin who was an engineer and he managed to put in some phosphor bronze bearings to get over the problem, repaired the damage to the head, and I was off and running again. In 1991 I moved into my first house, and not having a garage I had to keep it inside the house. And as you can see, my first house was, let's be honest, a bit of a fire hazard, but needs must, and I actually turned the bike round and fully serviced the rear suspension while I was in there. Why wouldn't you? And the other job that I did while it was in there, it actually, I think about 19,000 miles, the crankshaft let go, so I had to replace that, and I did that in the living room having rolled the carpet back. Then in about 1997 I had the breakdown of a relationship and I put the bike back on the road and set off on a bit of a tour of Britain. As you can see with the pictures, I got it up to Scotland, which was quite brave on an unreliable bike, and I had no breakdown cover. Over the next few years it made what I could call occasional comebacks. I bought other bikes along the way. I've had things like XJ600, Bandits, VFRs. And in between those bikes I would sometimes resurrect the 305. But realistically it was a bit of a side act for what I was really doing with bikes. I had been collecting parts to restore it, but realistically I put it back on the road in 2015 and I really didn't use it very much. So come 2016 I decided it was time to let it go. One of my big frustrations with that bike was the fact that all the abuse basically it suffered was down to me, and I was fixing my own recklessness really, and that sort of frustrated me a bit. So I decided to sell it on, and I sold it in I think September 2016 through Facebook Marketplace. It was bought by a chap, I think he was in his 20s, he was a student, called Scott, who didn't live far away. He was just in just into Devon, and he actually come and collected it in a Volvo 240. And I actually mean in. We took the front wheel out for him, took the petrol tank off, and pushed it into the back of of his car. You can see the condition of the bike at this time. These are the pictures that I used to sell the bike. As you can see, it's all up together. Looks to me fairly tidy. We went through lockdown, and nostalgia was a big thing I think during that time. So I thought, I wonder if it's still about. I had that bike 30 years, maybe I shouldn't have sold it. And I do my initial checks that I normally do, went on DVLA, we can see it's still active, it's sawn, and interestingly it hasn't been MOT'd since I sold it. So it could have just been taken apart and somebody hasn't tidied up the V5, or it's been stripped for spares and the frame's being sold just with V5, who knows. Amazingly, a couple of months later I came across it on Facebook Marketplace, and it was in Moulton, North Yorkshire, which is about 250-300 miles away, and someone was selling two bikes, one of them being mine, and here's some pictures of it, and looks very similar to when I sold it. It is missing the fairing, which is quite a sought after part, and I think the one I put on there was a very good, almost new condition. And he was selling two bikes for £250, and despite how far away it was, I thought, blow it, I'll go for it. And unfortunately, when I messaged the guy, he came back and said, sorry, someone's already interested, if they don't buy it, I'll come back to you. So goes on about another 12 months, and on the Gpz305 Facebook group, a couple of bikes come up for sale. It did say only suitable for spares, and I noticed on one of them there was a few familiar bits, the exhaust pipe, and there were some mods to the bodywork that I recognised as being my bike. No registration number was shown, so I thought, let's ask the question, and yes, it was, as I thought, my bike. Or let's be honest, the remains of my bike, as you all see. And we had a bit of to and fro and discussion with the guy selling them, and I thought we'd done a deal, but he then come back and said, oh sorry, I've listed it on eBay. So I've never seen them have a lot of luck with eBay, but here I am in the last sort of throes of the auction, and I put my bid in. I put in a maximum bid of 102.65, pressed submit bid, and I had so long on the refresh, the little blue circle of doom kept going round and round, and then boom, I'd won it. It was mine for my top bid, £102.65. Okay, so here we are, a few days later after my moment of nostalgia eBay madness, and I filled the car up with fuel. I've reset the trip, and I'm just about to enter the M5 for a 250 mile trip north, and that's each way. Well, that's 500 miles. I don't think the proclaimers would have walked 500 miles for this bike. In hindsight, I think I'm spending, including fuel, a couple of £100 to buy a bit of scrap worth probably 50. But hey, we'll see how it goes. We've got Pringles, we've got drink. Let's see how it goes. Okay, it's been 7 hours, 247.8 miles, loads of traffic jams as you would have seen in the feed, but we're here. So, was it worth it? After 7 years, now here's a quick picture just to remind you what the bike was like before. So, it's been to Ilfracombe, it's been up to Yorkshire, and now I'm picking it up near Halifax. So, let's go and have a look and see what it's going to look like. So here we go. After 6 years, you can probably hear a little bit giggling in the background. I don't blame him. What on earth am I doing buying this back? It's called nostalgia, I think, and I've probably lost the plot on this one, I think. But there is a tank, there is a seat, and there's a few other bits and pieces here as well, so we'll have to get it all back together. There's my number plate. That is actually, let's just turn it there, that is one of the few original bits. I recognise that. So there's all the parts. Yeah, nostalgia ain't what it used to be. So we're going to get it loaded up and we're going to be heading back home. It's now 20 past 6. I reckon if we get home before midnight we'll be doing well. Well, I'm nearly home. It's nearly midnight. Was it worth it? I'm not sure. We're going to have a look in the morning. My initial instinct is I brought a bit of scrap. But let's wait till the morning and see what it looks like. Well, it's the morning after the day before. It's been raining all day, and this is my first chance I've had to come out and have a look at what I've got. And I'm not sure it looks any better. And sadly, the answer is effectively no, it's no better than it looked in the dark last night. It definitely is my bike. I know that obviously because of the VIN number and of the registration number. The exhaust is the piece that gave it away to me, because that was a Micron 2-in-1, of which very few were made for this bike, and that's how I recognised it first in the pictures. And also in the rear tail piece there are some little bits cut out, which is where at one point I fitted some panniers to this bike. I'll see if I can find some pictures. It's probably something I'm trying to forget. I think there were Krauser ones, they were really massive. I've also got obviously some spares laying here. This is an extra tank, obviously it's a later model because of the colour scheme. This is the original tank with the bike. I know that because at the front I protected the paintwork with some sticky back plastic. Yes, I was a Blue Peter fan. So I know that's my tank. I don't think that's the original seat, but to be honest, it's got a split in it, so that's going to need recovering. I'm just going to have a quick rummage through these boxes just to see what's in there. I haven't looked through them myself yet, so we can see what's in here. Well, that's definitely not off it, because my bike's a chain drive and that's a pulley for a belt drive. That's the original number plate. I know, because I cut the bottom off because I fell out with the original supplying dealer, so I didn't want to share their name, so I cut the bottom off. How petty was that? Now, that is my original master cylinder. Now, the reason I know that, or I'm fairly confident, is I had these brake lines made up by a dealer back in Ipswich, and there will of course be 3 lines, and there's only 2. So we'll have to see whether we find anything else in there, but the caliper looks intact, so we haven't got a brake system on there at the moment, so we can see whether anything comes of that. So, what do I do? Is this just a complete folly? I should either sell it on as it is or break it up. Don't know. This could be just a cautionary tale for those that seek out their original bike. When I sold this 6-7 years ago, it had 2 owners. There was me and the person that had it before me, who'd only done 250 miles. So at that point I had all that history with it, and I think by buying it I've tried to recapture that, and unfortunately it's now got, would you believe, 9 owners. So it's had another 7 owners since me, and not one of them's had it on the road, which just seems absolutely ridiculous to me. I think I'm going to have to find a donor bike if I am going to put it back on the road, because there is so much missing. But I'm going to have a proper sift through all these bits and pieces and try and find what I actually need. So please drop in the comments what you think. Should I give up? Is this just a complete folly and a waste of time? And if I want to experience a 305, just go and buy a decent one, and you can buy them for quite sensible money, probably for a lot less than it will cost to restore this one. Or is the history of this one important? You know, should I keep the memories alive by bringing this one back to life? Let us know in the comments below. And in the meantime, if you've enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you would give us a like, and even more if you click that subscribe button.